Join us at Glossy's Beauty and Wellness Summit from November 11th through 13th in Napa, California. Influential beauty and wellness leaders will meet to discuss strategies and pain points, discover innovative tech, and ultimately make valuable business connections through one-on-ones and casual networking. For a limited time, we are offering $200 off with promo code GBS24, no spaces. Again, that's promo code GBS24 with no spaces. Go to glossy.co/beauty summit for more information and to secure your pass today. Hello and welcome to the Glossy Beauty Podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Lexi Lebsack, West Coast correspondent at Glossy. Today's guest is Shontay Lundy, the founder of Girl Sunscreen, a sunscreen brand she launched in 2016 as an alternative to the many sunscreen formulas that leave a white cast on skin, a problem that's particularly noticeable on medium and dark complexions. The brand's products were formulated to melt seamlessly into all complexions, whether the formula uses a chemical, mineral, or a mix of both UV filters. The line also features hydrating ingredients like jojoba oil and shea butter, which deliver a dewy, hydrated finish in certain formulas. In 2019, Shontay launched a children's line called BGS Kids, which features its own branding and social marketing channels. And just this month, a men's line called BGS Mens, which also has its own branding to match the matte finish and more masculine scent. But beyond products, Shontay is on a mission to educate Black consumers about the value of sunscreen, all in hopes of debunking the myth that people with dark complexions don't need sunscreen. As we know, the deadliest form of skin cancer, called melanoma, impacts people of all skin tones and ethnic backgrounds. Girl Sunscreen and BGS Kids have wide omni-channel distribution. The brand sells direct to consumer and on Amazon, as well as in retailers like Target, CVS, Ulta Beauty, Walgreens, Walmart, and many more. I wanted to ask Shontay about managing all these retailers, as well as the challenges that come with marketplace sites like dupes and counterfeits. I was also curious about the brand's robust out-of-home marketing strategy, which includes billboards celebrating its many campaigns, plus many more topics, all in today's episode. Shontay, welcome to the Glossy Beauty Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. I have been following your brand, Girl Sunscreen, for a long time, and I was recently on your podcast, which was so much fun, Shamelessly Shontay. And I want to kind of start today, if it's okay with you, to hear a little bit about your backstory. I'm curious about how you got your start.
The background is really this. I'm a woman of the sun. I love to be outside. I'm originally from upstate New York, by the way of Miami, currently residing in Southern California. And my friends would ask me to wear sunscreen because I was in the sun a lot. And my response was a resounding no because of my complexion. Also, there was nothing on the market that spoke to brown and Black girls. With that, I asked myself 3 questions. Will other Black people, Black women, wear something if you decide to make it? First one. Number 2 is, do I have the resources to make it? And then number 3, do I have the confidence? And once all 3 of those questions were answered, yes, I decided to make Girl Sunscreen. And that's the backstory on how I got here today, like the big story of it all. But no, I'm not a chemist. Yes, I did go to B school for grad and undergrad, but I will attribute, what we're doing now to more of my hands-on experience in my previous work, meaning learning how to build a business, understanding hey, how does the marketing department work? How does the finance department work? How do they work together? How don't they work together? How do you gain accounts? Meaning, build relationships. How do you have a competitive advantage over your competition? How do you retain employees? What is turnover? how to read financials. So there were a lot of things that I learned, not in school, but at my previous position, and then was able to bring it over to Black Girl Sunscreen, because we don't just have a product, we are building an organization, and that's two different things.
Mm-hmm. What was your previous role?
I was in middle management in the car rental space. Their model is, they empower the employees to run their own business. So what that means is, you have a say in the talent that's being hired. You have to put together like training modules. So, how do you want your staff to, let's say, answer the phone? How do you want your staff to, take care of a customer so they come back? Because there's, car rental agencies on every corner, especially in every major city. So how do you stand out amongst the rest? Like, how is your pricing, right? Online. And then when they actually get into the door, what is that pricing? Because you can do a couple different things there. So there are so many elements to the customer experience aspect of it that I don't know if everyone always gets when like just kind of like inventing a product.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So for people who are unfamiliar, give us a little bit of sort of the high level information about Black Girl Sunscreen. What are your best sellers? What is your business model? And I know we already heard a little bit about your mission, but walk us through that.
Yeah. So our mission and vision is for anyone that wants to wear Black Girl Sunscreen or Black Girl Sunscreen products. We want you to have them around the world. So not only is it just for Black women and women of color, but it's for all people, as we have BGS Kids and we have something special coming in just a few days. So that's our mission and vision. Our top selling product is our queen, Black Girl Sunscreen SPF 30. Our claim to fame is removing the white cast. And like I was saying, the reason why I started wearing sunscreen was because there wasn't a brand that spoke to my complexion. Well, that literally is still the number one reason. Well, probably the number two reason of why people don't wear sunscreen. It's not just of color, it's people in general. Like no one is the color of toothpaste. So why does a cosmetic product look like toothpaste, right? So our claim to fame is removing the no white cast. And then we have some really just nurturing and moisturizing ingredients, such as jojoba and cacao. Remove the yucky stuff that consumers have become very sensitive to. And we are environmentally friendly. So that's why BGS 30 is a top seller.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the things that I think some folks don't think about, such as, our packaging is black and gold.
Mm-hmm.
So I did market research, and I say we a lot, even though it was just like me. I felt like I had a team because I was doing so many roles. But the research that I did was that, sunscreen is coming in like orange, whites, yellows, super bright colors. And I said, okay, well, I want something that's going to be like luxurious. I want something that's going to catch the eye. And what is not already being done in sun care? And that's how we came up with the black bottle, not because it's for Black people, right? Like, no, that wasn't the thinking at all. And then the luxurious piece is the gold.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a combo of a black and gold packaging that is very eye-catching, but also very like picture worthy. So it does well in photos. So like that's why people want to take the photo with it. They want to TikTok with it. And even my own sister calls me one day and she's like, I'm in this store and they don't have Black Girl Sunscreen. She sends me a picture. I'm like, that's fine. Buy BGS Kids. She's like, that's not the one I want.
Because she wants the packaging.
Yeah, because she wants the packaging. Yeah. So
I love it.
So with that, right? Like that was really important through this journey because we didn't want it to look like the regular stuff that was already, on the scene. So that's kind of like high level of who we are. We are this super cute, like BFF, environmentally also aesthetically pleasing sunscreen for the girlies.
Mm-hmm. Well, that takes me to another question that I want to talk about, which is that you do have different branding for the BGS Kids and then the adult line as well, which I think is really interesting. And you have different social media accounts, I noticed as well. Walk me through sort of the decision, the strategy behind making them sort of two different, I guess, different brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, BGS Kids rolls into Black Girl Sunscreen, and the packaging is different because the consumer is different. We wanted to speak to kids and parents, and we believe that kids like the bright, fun stuff. So on BGS Kids, I'm looking at it right now, just like as a reference, there's like waves, like a beach wave and a beach ball. So it makes it like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to go to the pool. Like, this is what I want, mom. But also like a mom is saying like, hey, put this on, child. Like, this is for you. Whereas the Black Girl Sunscreen packaging comes across a little bit more mature. So when it came to what does it look like on paper, it looks like two different brands. It does not look cohesive. So that's why we made the decision to separate the two. But just the language and how we talk about it and the voice that we use, it is hard to intertwine, I will say, even currently.
I mean, you're speaking to, I think, like the same people, because you're speaking to the parents who are like putting the sunscreen on the kids, but you're so right. It's like totally different when it comes to the packaging and the kids and what they're looking for and all of that good stuff. So smart.
Yeah. And now the Black Girl Sunscreen customer is truly the influencer for the child, right? Because they're seeing what mom buys.
Yes.
Right. So they want what mom buys, and mom or dad could easily say like, hey, there's a kid version for you. That's what we're seeing now. Millennials are the largest generation right now. We've just surpassed boomers, but we also have the largest buying capacity. And if you think about like who's coming up and buying skincare, it's the children of the millennials, the older millennials, that is, right? So every day we serve as an influence, whether it's to our nieces, our nephews, and our kids. So for that reason, and this is very forward thinking, I wasn't able to think that way then, but we are like, hey, mom, Black Girl Sunscreen, their child, BGS Kids.
I mean, that's so smart. I honestly haven't really thought about it quite like that before, but it's so true. It's like the parents are modeling this behavior. And that's why we're seeing the Gen Alphas that are like, we want all these products that we have been seeing used basically in our houses or on social media as well. You must have had so many people reach out to you and say, I'm wearing sunscreen now because of this line, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Every day we get testaments, we get reviews, we get thank yous, we feel seen, we feel honored. And that's what Black Girl Sunscreen wants to do, is honor deeper complexions, all complexions, but especially deeper.
Well, I will say that disrupting a space is very challenging, no matter what the space is. And disrupting it in like a DTC model is really powerful and amazing, but disrupting it in all of the retailers that you're in right now, like I feel like that's next level. You are in all of the big box retailers that all brands are sort of dying to get into right now. Do you have any advice or anecdotes for people who are kind of trying to navigate? I know big box retail is tough. It's tough, right?
Yeah, that's why. Listen, Lexi, don't ask me to give advice to the people that want to get in retail, because we know that the retail landscape is not what it used to be right now. So I don't have any tips or antidotes on how to get in. No, seriously, I think that you really have to think your strategy and what's, best for your brand. Okay, what I will say is this. In 2019, when we got into our first big box retailer, it was a huge deal. And what that meant for us was validation that we are not this kind of like mom and pop's brand that is operating outside of our kitchen or garage or whatever little space you want to like downplay the business to or pigeonhole the business to. It was, hey, these retailers are getting behind you and saying like, this product is good enough for the mass. So that was, oh my goodness, like big deal.
Yeah.
And even today, like if the team is at like an activation or so, all they have to say is like, oh, we're in this store, we're in that store. And then people are like, oh, really? Like they're shocked. And it's just like, oh, why does this change the conversation? But it really does change the conversation. So I will say there's that level of prestige to it, right? Like if you've made it into a retailer, then you've done something right. Now, it's actually more important to stay on the shelf than it is to make it into the retailer. So how do you sell through the product? And my advice there is really not just through the retailer, but any platform that you're on is building community, building a product that the consumer trusts and loves and that they're willing to tell their close loved ones about. If you don't have that, you won't have the velocity. Somebody could try it because you have, compelling and enticing packaging. But if the product doesn't work, they're not going to buy it again.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a product that works. And then you have to have people talking about the product. Two things. And that doesn't matter if you're in retail or if you're just selling on .com.
That's so true. Well, let's go back. Let's talk about formula for a second, because I know that, we've talked before about how challenging it was to be developing these formulas. And I know you told me that you went back to the labs, to the chemists that you're working with several times, and you're like, no, this. So walk me through that. How hard was that to develop the products?
It still is hard today.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm going to talk in the present form is because Black Girl Sunscreen has set a standard on formulation when it comes to people of color. Okay. So it has become extremely difficult today because people have said, like, you know what? No one is going to have a white cast. So not having a white cast is like, this is the standard now. How is your product more innovating and 10 times better than what anybody else has? Well, Black Girl Sunscreen can't just come out with one tinted sunscreen. We need to have multiple because coming from a brand of color, we should be able to understand people of color. So how dare us only create one sunscreen that is speaking to a mass? Like, no. So that makes it extremely challenging for us. Right? Because if it's almost like we got to do 50 shades.
Oh my gosh.
Like literally, right? Because there are different undertones, there are different complexions, and we don't want to not be inclusive when it comes to sun care. So I skipped over the initial piece because it's gotten harder than it was 8 years ago, because 8 years ago, it was just about removing the white cast. Now it's about how do you include everyone? How do you not have a white cast? How do you not break out? How do you become hyperallergenic? How are you dermatologist approved, pediatric approved? How are you fighting against rosacea? How are you doing all of these things with one thing? How are you a novelty? How are you nostalgic? How are you this? How are you that? There's so many questions out to answer within your one formula.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I don't
Did you get
personally,
all that? Yeah.
I do not personally have an entrepreneurial spirit. And I think it's because of that. It's like, it just feels so overwhelming. There's so much to do. There's so many things to tackle. And then you're right. It's like, and I think to go back to what you were saying about the retailers providing this like third party validation sort of, kind of thing. It's because there are so many formulas on the market across all kinds of categories, across sun care, but across everything else too. There's just so much out there that when, people do see something in a retail, they're like, okay, it's been vetted. It's been vetted. But yeah. But you're exactly what you're saying. It's like everyone's moving so quickly and innovation is happening across all of the different categories so quickly that there's so much to think about.
Yeah, that you have to think so much out of the box, right? Like for me, I don't want to create something that's mediocre. It needs to be 10 times better than what's currently on the market. But like also thinking about, okay, where are people not applying sunscreen? We've seen brands make sunscreen for eyelids, right? So there's like, SPF in your eyeshadow. People are not really applying sunscreen to the ears. So do we make something specifically for the ears? Like there's just so many different like ways and paths that we can go down. It makes it extremely difficult. And then it's just like, how does the product get momentum? That's probably one of the most difficult things, is really just getting it right. But the standard has definitely changed because it is no longer acceptable to be wearing white sunscreen, period.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. So much to do. I guess that kind of takes me to a question about your team and sort of how you've found the right people, how you've hired the right people, surrounded yourself with the right, manufacturers and the right vendors and like all of the people and companies that you need to run a business.
Yeah, sure. We're a team of 25 right now. We started with a team of one, myself. My first hire was a web designer because that's something that I actually couldn't do. Wix wasn't around then. Because that's like a starter website. No shade to it, but it definitely is helping folks that like want to do things on their own. So I hired someone to do the website. Black Girl Sunscreen, we did not raise capital for the concept, for the idea at all. So I used my own money, which was about $33,000 for my first batch of sunscreen, which was 5,000 units. So my $33,000 bought me 5,000 units. It bought me a website. And I had to kind of be resourceful on how to spend my money. I also had to prioritize the things that were important to me. So for example, like hair and nails, like that wasn't being done regularly. I sold all of my designer bags and shoes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all of them, right? But like now I look back and I remember buying my first pair of red bottoms because I had this huge commission check from my corporate job. And in red bottoms at the time in the early 2000s was like, you had to have a pair, right? If you're in the fashion, right? You just had to have a pair. And I remember that first purchase, it was just like, it felt so good. And then to resell them, it was just like, okay, like I'm moving on to something new. So like signified growth. But also that it wasn't that important. Those shoes weren't that important. What I'm seeing now is with hires, it's based on personality. Like, who do you want to work with? Who makes it easy to work with? Who's taking things off of your plate? And even if she wasn't an expert in social, she was easy to talk to. She was available. And that's why, I had her around for about, 1 year or so. So that's how I'm basing some of my hires currently today is, first of all, we are champions of investing in females. So Black Girl Sunscreen is comprised of literally like 90% females at Black Girl Sunscreen. And it's okay if you don't have any experience in whatever we're hiring you in. We want you to have the passion and we want you to love what you're doing.
That's good advice. I feel like I hear that a lot from founders and CEOs about like, it's so much more important to have that like correct fit, that like culture fit, that personality fit, because it's like, you're going to be working with these people for day in and day out, especially at like, the early stages or like in a growth place.
What I will say is this, is when we first got our HQ in 2021, the caliber of talent wasn't what it is today for us. So over time, we've gotten stronger candidates that have just more experience in beauty and just in the working space. Today, we have a full executive team. I wouldn't be able to get those same people 5 years ago, because Black Girl Sunscreen wasn't in that same place. So people do ask me like, hey, how did you build your team? I will tell them that it takes patience, because people have to want to come work for you. They have to buy into whoever is running the company. And what does the company stand for? Does the company align with what they're doing personally? What's the hype behind the company? Do they want to get into this like cool space? There's just so many things that kind of attract top tier talent. We work with recruiters. The recruiter has to sell Black Girl Sunscreen on the talent. And how are they doing that? Well, look what Black Girl Sunscreen has done. Look what Black Girl Sunscreen, look where they're at. Look at the opportunity. And then also too, like not everybody has the courage to go from big company to growing company.
Yeah.
We had an employee start with us, right? This was a couple of years ago. And she would laugh if she heard me tell this story, but she came to like her first day of work and was like, are you guys going to be able to pay me?
Oh God.
No lie. No lie. Right? Like, were we offended? A little bit. Right?
Like, yeah, why did she take that job if she was even thinking?
Well, yes, that is the first question, right? But But more importantly, there's a stigma behind growing companies, right? Like, are they going to go under? Do they have the resources and the capital to support, hires? And what folks don't understand, or maybe what they do understand, is that you have to like get your hands dirty now, right? You're not going to have all of these resources and all these people and departments to do the things that you were doing in other companies. And that's the difference between growing and large. The pro is there's not a lot of red tape. So if you need to get a yes, you can get it probably within the hour. Whereas in certain bigger companies, it might take days, weeks for approval. Black Girl Sunscreen and other growing companies, yes or no. But you may have to do it yourself.
Are you a beauty or wellness brand looking to showcase your work alongside the top in the industry? The Glossy Beauty Awards provides the opportunity to recognize your company's work with categories including Skincare Brand of the Year, Beauty CEO of the Year, Beauty Brand of the Year, and many others. This is your chance to showcase the campaigns, initiatives, products, and practices that make your brand truly stand out. Join the esteemed ranks of past winners like Rare Beauty, Olaplex, and Ulta Beauty. Discover more and start your entry at glossy.co/awards/beauty. We talked a little bit about, building your team. We talked a little bit about, making sure that the formula is exactly what will keep people coming back, replenishing, buying again from shelves. I want to talk a little bit about your marketing and your social media and everything you're doing there. I feel like every time I go on your social or the brand social or see anything sort of out in the wild, I feel like it's always something new, always something cool. I saw you're doing a campaign right now with a bunch of athletes, which is very appropriate for our Olympics summer, your Real Athletes Wear Sunscreen campaign. You also have a really robust out-of-home strategy with billboards. You have social media, different franchises. You're killing it on social. How do you know which direction to go to? What is your strategy around all of the marketing and all of the social that you're putting out?
And if you want my honest truth, like sometimes I don't feel like it's enough. Right. Especially if you compare yourself to like other brands. That's why it's like really important to like be laser focused. So I appreciate you saying that we're killing it. I appreciate you recognizing the RAWs. That's an internal acronym, Real Athletes Wear Sunscreen campaign. Okay. That was a lot of, that took a lot of hard work, right? Because it's the wild, wild west out here with creators, with influencers, with agencies. Man, the price is, whew, it gets a little tricky there on, deliverables and all that stuff. So what we're trying to do is be in the now and what's happening. So Real Athletes is about, first of all, Black Girl Sunscreen championing females. So there are things that we don't go away from, that we stay true to. All right. So Real Athletes is, we have a strong partnership with some colleges, local colleges in the Southern California area. We wanted to support them. Right. So a couple of athletes are from that college. And one of them actually went to the Olympics. She came in fourth in her discipline. So she did a tremendous job.
Wow.
Yep. And that was all, the campaign launched during the Olympics, right? So that was actually strategic timing, right? So it's about knowing like what's about to come. And then how do you align that with whatever you have happening in your organization? And so for us, it's having a calendar of these monumental moments, but does it work for us? Now, if this were the Winter Olympics, it might have been a hard kind of alignment, right? Because people don't really associate sunscreen with winter. Mm-hmm. Although we could say like, hey, you skiers, you should probably wear this, or, whatever, the sun reflects off of the snow. But it's a harder sell than it is when you're talking about track and field, when you're talking about beach volleyball, and when you're talking about all of these outdoor sports. So I would say that do things that align with your brand, right? And that will resonate with the consumer and the viewer. And that's how it works for Black Girl Sunscreen. But also, again, like, what is going to show that you are more than just selling a product, that you are supporting the people that are supporting you. So with those three athletes, let's just say, right, like they will be fans of the brand, but their families also know about their brand. And then the families of those families know about the brand. And that's why I say like word of mouth is just so important, because you don't actually know who's talking about you. So the social media aspect of it is Black Girl Sunscreen. We launched on Instagram in 2016. It's our largest platform. It's not going away.
Yeah.
Now, how do you stay relevant? How do you stay aligned with the algorithm? How do you produce engaging content? How do you become a brand that doesn't constantly talk about the retailers that you're in?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure you've been on a brand's Instagram or digital platform, and all they're doing is saying like, hey, go shop us there, go shop us wherever, right? So is your strategy to guide the consumer to where you want them to purchase, or is your strategy to show, I don't know, like beauty shots or how to use the product or what's the consistency of the product? I think that when you're a brand like that, you're an elevated brand, right? Because the consumer already knows where they can find you.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think that obviously the brand awareness around, you know, all the different campaigns you're doing help? Do you think that, like, generally speaking, around customer behavior, do you think that customers are used to or want to buy sunscreen online? Or do you think that it's like one of those things like buying, you know, Tylenol or contact solution? It's like people are going into those big box stores or into those pharmacies to pick it up? Or do you think that people are buying online?
Yeah, I think that it depends on like generations, honestly. I think the younger generation is using, so when I say younger, under millennial, they're buying on TikTok and they're buying right off of Instagram. Millennials plus, they're going into the store. It's actually 42% online, and the rest is like going into the store. So it's almost like a 50-50 split. So I think it just depends on like how you've kind of grown up, right? Now, like right now, teenagers, I call them screenagers, because they're spending a lot of their time, like, you know, literally like head down into whatever device they have. So they're going to purchase right from whatever they're doing. Whereas us, like, we're going into the stores and things like that. So it just depends on like how you've kind of come up. Now, in terms of like the actual physical product, I think that sunscreen can be bought either direction. It could be in store, right? You don't like have to try it on. We also don't like give a tester, like the retailer doesn't say like, hey, try me, right? So it's not like there's going to be any difference like of an experience if you go in store versus like if you want to buy a dress, right? You can try on the dress. Yeah, feel it or whatever.
Yeah. So it's more about you sort of like meeting the customer where they are, whether it's like they're walking through a pharmacy or a drugstore, or if they're like actually like online.
I would say even for the convenience piece, right? Like we see this giant e-commerce that sells convenience, not products. They sell convenience, right? So if you need sunscreen because you're going to Aruba in 2 days, well, then you have your option of where you can buy it from. But there's also certain beauty retailers that do same day delivery too, via Instacart or whatever. So it totally just depends on like what your need is.
I recently saw I think it was Sephora that was, I was on DoorDash, like ordering food or something. And they were like, would you like to send you some beauty products? Like they're basically like, it's interesting. I'm like, oh, wow, I can get like all of this stuff in like literally 2 hours. So interesting.
It's phenomenal. I travel back and forth to Texas, and my goodness, like, have you ever just forgotten like your makeup? It's awful.
Oh gosh. You don't realize how much everything costs until you need to do a quick little replenish.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I bought stuff like that night before to be delivered like the next day from from the beauty stores and it was delivered. And I was just like, oh, this is phenomenal. Like, this is a different world than what we came up in, or at least I came up in. Like, are you serious?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely getting out of the whole like go to the store mentality, and I just am ordering most of my stuff online. But I still sort of am that child that grew up like you have to go to the store if you want, but now it's tough because it feels like, stores just don't have as much stuff as they used to. They don't have as much stock. They don't have as many options. I just feel like I'm frequently disappointed when I feel like I go to stores. But if you go to like, from my POV is if you go to a store and like you want to discover something and you're open and you're browsing, then like the store experience is great. But do you have something specific that you need? Like, I don't know, man, it's a risk if they're going to have it.
1,000%, Lexi. I'm taking my niece's school shopping in a couple weeks. And I can't wait. I'm so excited.
That's cute.
And they gave me a list. Listen. And I'm like, okay, so with this list, though, I think some of the things would be good if we just bought them like online, and we'll get like the fun items like in store. But like, if you want a black t-shirt, let's just buy that. Let's just buy that online.
Yeah, for sure.
Agree with your point.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I've really enjoyed about the many conversations that we've had is that you've been very honest talking about some of the challenges that founders and entrepreneurs and CEOs have. I kind of want to run through these, starting with, what we're talking about here with this online shopping marketplace sites. What is your POV on marketplace sites? Give me the rundown.
I posted something the other day, and it was just talking about being a business owner / entrepreneur. Top of morning could be like the best day of your life, and the day could be like the worst day of your life, or vice versa, because things are just kind of like constantly like going and just like a roller coaster. And I say that in regards to the e-commerce, right? Like I kind of mentioned it. What you had said, a few minutes ago was, oh my gosh, such a big accomplishment being in big box, right?
Yeah.
The thought was you wanted to be in big box and not on the third-party sites. Like, ew, third-party site, like that's because you couldn't make it in the retail. Literally, you couldn't make it. You weren't good enough. The buyer didn't like you. The buyer didn't think you were going to sell, or you spoke to the mass. So you had to figure out a plan B. And the plan Bs are the eBays, are the Amazons, are Temu. It's a platform. It's a platform.
I know. You know my thoughts on Temu. I don't think it's ready for beauty yet. In a few years, maybe. Yeah,
but like you probably could have said that about Amazon.
I did. Yeah. Early days, I was like, don't buy beauty products on Amazon. I was like, it's not ready yet. But now I feel like it's significantly better if you know how to do it, if you know how to go to the brand's landing page and then follow that, in my opinion.
So on my niece's shopping list, there's this Nike book bag that is like super viral. And she sent me the Amazon link. I was like, find it somewhere else. I was like, I'm not buying it off of Amazon. And honestly, it was $10 more on Amazon than it was on the Nike site. I thought that was a little surprising. So anyway, there are certain things I still don't buy off of Amazon. Here's my challenge with Amazon is that anybody can sell on Amazon, right? So as a brand, if you do want to sell, then you should just go on as yourself and sell your products and not allow anybody else to sell your product. The only benefit of allowing someone else to sell your product is they're building up awareness first. And they're giving you the opportunity to see if your product will sell on that platform. So you can see if some bozo is selling, 1,000 units of your product a month on Amazon before you even jump on there and invest your time. Amazon is a really fickle platform because they can knock your product off. They can accept your product. They can deny your product. There can be duplicates of your product. It's a really, I would say it's a full-time position for any organization.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. You have to have somebody oversee it. The inventory management piece is insane, right? Because, there's different tiers, right? So you can have your product delivered, 2 to 5, if you're in a major city for the most part, right? With a lot of Amazon fulfillment centers. So you can get product delivered from 2 to 5, 2 to 8, whatever. same day or next day or 2-day. So in order for a brand to even qualify same day, next day, 2-day, you have to have constant inventory, sufficient inventory. If you do not have sufficient inventory, you are not on Prime. And if you are not on Prime, then a consumer may not buy you, because I just told you Amazon sells convenience. So the consumer will buy something that they can get right away. Now, that's not actually my issue with Amazon. My issue was they're letting anybody sell on their platform. So anybody can go ahead and buy Black Girl Sunscreen that maybe was on clearance, or I don't know, let's just say do a knockoff.
Or a counterfeit.
Yeah, a knockoff
fake.
Black Girl Sunscreen that says like Black People Sunscreen or Orange People Sunscreen, whatever, right? And literally use our assets. So you'll see a picture of me on, I don't know, on XYZ seller's page, me holding up their product that says Brown People Sunscreen. And you're like, what? Take this down now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Take this down like right now before I report you. And they'll take it down, but then they'll pop back up. No, I'm not kidding you, right? Or they'll like pair it with something like I've seen Black Girl Sunscreen paired with like a comb. We can't get those people off for nothing. It says literally go Napa. So we're just going to produce a comb that says Black Girl Sunscreen and pair it with our product. And then now we compete. And no one's going to buy because like the real brand is on there if they're like you and know how to navigate through that. So those are some of the challenges that, you know, an Amazon platform will bring. But there's so many advantages because there are so many eyes on that platform. They actually have more eyes than the retailer.
I believe that for sure. So do you have a full-time Amazon person now, or like, how are you?
We've always had a full-time. We only launched with full-time. And actually, so Amazon was probably in Black Girl Sunscreen's inbox every month for the last, I don't know, 2 years. And the answer was a resounding no. I didn't want to launch. I couldn't launch because, first of all, we didn't need to launch on Amazon yet because we were doing so well in retail. We wanted to pull the trigger when it was necessary, right? And not knowing what this retail landscape was going to be, it was actually really good that we launched on Amazon this year because it made up for just kind of like the slow growth in retail for us. So with that, we launched top of year, so January, on the Amazon platform. It takes a little bit of time to kind of get going, right? You got to get inventory in their warehouses. You got to get the listing going. You got to get the right words because it's not the same. It's not as pretty as if you go on, I don't know, Target.com. It's not the same. You got to put stuff like, I don't know, no white cast, moisturizing ingredients in all caps.
You gotta scream at them.
Yeah, in all caps, right? 3-ounce tube. Won't melt, like something like that, right? Like, because like, what are people searching, right? In the browser, like trusted sunscreen, things like that. Number one sunscreen for Black girls. It's a completely different strategy than it is for retail.
Yeah. Wow. And you have to get them in the headline, in the title of the product, right? For it to work.
That's right.
Oh
in the title. And you're just like, what is this? And you're like, and the person that's running your account will say, don't worry. Like this is the strategy, right? And you have to trust that, but you also have to have someone that has been producing. My technique here has been find someone that is a hustler. And when I say someone that's a hustler, find someone that knows these platforms. Find someone that isn't like cookie cutter on this. They know the ins and outs. And they're going to say, no, we're going to beat that person right there that has been knocking you off of the net for the last 2 years. Who are those clowns? Who are those bozos? No. Right? Yeah. That has been my strategy, not to go with the bigger agencies, to go with the person that knows the platform, that knows eBay, and maybe used to sell on eBay, knows how to make the dollar. Brands, I think, sometimes want the glitz and the glamour. They want the top heads to be associated with their brand. And I don't think that's always the answer. Get the person that is best, that knows it, And that's what has worked for us in Amazon.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Or they want to like just hire an agency, a vendor to just like handle it. And like, we don't even want to hear about Amazon. Just like go do Amazon.
No. If you're saying like, hey, it's almost like running ads, right? Like you're allowing somebody else to like run a piece of your business. And that's okay if that's how you are. I mean, some people would really describe that as like a collaborative effort, right? Like you're saying like, hey, I trust this person to help build. But for us, it's more about like, you know what? We don't want to put full control in somebody else's hands. So Black Girl Sunscreen, we actually don't run ads via Meta.
Oh, wow.
At all. Because my mentality there is like, hey, and this is not to like offend anyone. It's just more about like, hey, like who's actually running your business here? If you're just dumping in a ton of dollars into ads, not just Meta ads, but just into ads, like you are expecting those ads to produce an ROI, to produce revenue for you.
Yeah. Well, it's a scary strategy to base your business around, because we've seen so many of the brands that were doing that with algorithm changes just have their like losing their shirt basically.
Yeah. Well, what happens when the platform shuts down for the day?
Exactly.
Like there's outages and people are just kind of like losing their minds, like in refreshing because they see dollars literally going out of the window. But if you kind of put your eggs in different baskets, then it's kind of like, okay, that will come up when it comes up. We have some other things rolling to continue the growth and the momentum of the business.
How would you stack up like the different parts of the business, like DTC, retailer versus like the marketplace sites like Amazon? What percentage of your business is going to each of them?
That's a really good question. And a lot of investors would love to know that answer, Lexi. So what I will say is that, you know, we have very large customers in the retail side, but Amazon is doing a very nice job for us. And then another channel for us has been our frontline kind of distributors which are like the estheticians, the salons, right? So for me, I have so much respect for them because they're also entrepreneurs. They run a business and they're supporting Black Girl Sunscreen by buying Black Girl Sunscreen and putting it on their shelves. And although they don't have the same reach as a big box or, you know, the Amazons, they have loyal customers that will only buy from them, customers that trust their word.
Mm-hmm. Do you worry about diversion of that product though? Like if you're selling to distributors and then they put it on Amazon or they put it somewhere and then it's hard to like figure out where it came from?
Oh, listen. Oh, that's been a pain point, right? So, you know, we will say like, hey, we don't allow this to be on, we don't allow you to sell at trade shows. We don't allow you to sell on any third-party website, and we trust that you won't do that. Now, is that what's happening? We know that some people are doing that because when we got on Amazon, their sales declined. So listen, you can only trust but so much, right? You can only do. We're not here to police anyone, but we notice. But for them, it's just more of like, how do they move the products? And that's a fast way. I think Amazon too is kind of sometimes for the impatient.
Yeah.
This is my first time even realizing that and understanding that like sometimes people just want fast growth or fast anything as opposed to like really nurturing it. Retail, you do have to act fast, but you also have to nurture and build that customer and say like, hey, you know what? Maybe this promo works. You have to build a relationship within those organizations for them to even give you marketing play. Like, hey, we want to give you eye level shelving, or you know what? We're going to give you this free poster. Not really free, but we're going to give you this like extra marketing, or we're going to put you in a commercial. So all that stuff, all that stuff takes time. Whereas if you launch on a third-party website, you just launched.
Yeah, and you're selling like an hour later.
or a day later, but you're amongst, millions of products.
Yeah. last Amazon question. I think I saw on social, you shared some numbers, right? About sales. You have done a lot on Amazon. What was that number?
Yeah. First 3 months, we did 1 million.
Wow.
Now I want people to really understand what we sell. Black Girl Sunscreen sells sunscreen to people that didn't think they needed sunscreen. That first and foremost, right? Like surface.
Yeah.
We sell a product to a group of people that didn't think they needed it.
You're making your own market share. It's really impressive.
First 3 months, which were winter months.
Oh yeah. January, February, March. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Winter months. Mm-hmm. And the price point, Lexi, is $10. So how many units do you have to sell to get $1 million?
Shontay, I don't do math. I don't know. I do not know. But I know it's a lot.
Yeah. You don't have to do math to know that it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then coming into season, we were able to double that, triple that. So it's done really well for us. That's what I will say. With minimal marketing dollars. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're running short of time. Last question here, but I also I have 2 more questions. What does the future hold? What does the future hold for you? What does the future hold for Black Girl Sunscreen? What is your goal? Where do you see this going? Where do you want to be?
Yeah, we want to be in all the households that want us there. So a household name is very important for us, or being a household name is very important for us. So when you go into the retailers, you will see. You may think it's a lot of product on shelf, but there's actually not. Black Girl Sunscreen is easily top 5. So we stand toe to toe with all the legacy brands. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's like what's next for us is how are we in top 3 for the consumers that want to purchase Black Girl Sunscreen or identify with Black Girl Sunscreen or don't identify with Black Girl Sunscreen. They're just like, hey, I heard about this. Like this works for all complexions. I'm going to buy it. So what's next is continuing to solidify that we are an SPF brand. How do you do that? Well, having formulas across the board, whether they're synthetic, mineral, the different applications. So roll-on sprays, lotions, hair drops, whatever, right? Black Girl Sunscreen is an FPF brand. And that's what's important to us. So worldwide product innovation and being, top 3 of brands, of sunscreen brands. In a certain price point,
Yeah. Of course. And then last question is, this episode will have come out after Monday, where I know you're sharing some new information. Can you give us a teaser on what you're launching on Monday or what you're announcing on Monday?
We are talking to a different gender now.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an easy dead giveaway.
Yeah, you're launching a men's line, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. I am, when I tell you, beyond excited, but also have a little bit of anxiety. So whenever we launch, it's always like, will people be receptive? Like, what's going to be the feedback? But for our entire existence, we've been asked the question, can men use this? Can different people use this? And the answer has always been yes. But when it says girl or Black or anything other than what you identify with, it's hard to say, like, this is for me, period. Right?
That makes sense.
So with BGS Men, that's the name of it. BGS Men, just like BGS Kids, we keep it pretty consistent. This is for our men that want to be protected, that want to preserve their youth, that want to address any skin concerns and don't want to use a product that says Black Girl Sunscreen.
And besides the sort of like different branding, different approach to it, are the formulas different? Are you like sort of tailoring them for men?
Yes, absolutely. Men don't like to smell like flowers or anything that, has any like type of like femininity to it. Oh my goodness. So for the first time ever, I went into the store and I was with someone and I was like, I picked up this perfume and I asked the person, like, what does it smell like? And she's like, it smells gender neutral. I was like, oh, I don't know what that smells like, but okay. So when you think about like men and women's like fragrances, because I don't even say like perfume or colognes anymore. We just say like fragrance. because we want all to use. We've tailored it to where it doesn't smell like, oh my goodness, I'm about to go play in the garden or whatever, or like, right? Like it's not like super, I guess, feminine.
Yeah.
For lack of better words. Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. Well, congratulations. I'll be watching this launch. I'm sure it will do very well. I'm sure the products are going to be great. I'm sure you're going to reach this whole other demographic. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was so much fun.
Lexi, I appreciate your support over the last few years. I love chatting with you. I love your perspective. Yay. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Same. I love chatting with you as well. Anyone who wants to follow you on social, where can they find you?
We always plug the brand first, right? So Black Girl Sunscreen, first and foremost, across all platforms. And that's spelled exactly like how we say it. And then if you want to peek into my life, which has been mostly about Shamelessly Shontay the last, almost year or so, it's Shontay Lundy.
Perfect. Yay. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you again. And yeah, so nice having you.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the Glossy Beauty Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. And for even more coverage on the beauty industry and more, please visit glossy.co/beauty.